My name is Harvey Turner, and welcome back to the Ori-Genes of Mankind. Clearly you have a curious mind and don't believe that our ancestors used bronze tools and hundreds of thousands of workers to accomplish the pyramids at Giza, the impossibly large trilithon stones at Baalbek, and the perfectly fitted stones at Sacsayhuaman. Chapter 2, The Missing Link. The phrase, the missing link, has been coined to Charles Lyell, whom was Charles Darwin's mentor. Lyell studied the differences between the fossilized remains of Homo neanderthalis and Homo erectus from 1 million years ago when compared to the fossilized remains of Homo sapiens of 30,000 to 300,000 years ago. But 300,000 years is really going back too far. To me, and to many others, the term the missing link is in reference to that missing leap or gap in our Homo sapien timeline when we stopped filling our faces with what we could reach or kill at that moment and started to farm and to plant crops and started to build structures and villages. And this is known to have happened just 14,000 years ago. So what's missing? What happened globally to get all Homo sapiens to end an eat-as-you-go lifestyle that had lasted 300,000 years? Homo erectus did it for 1 million years, and they never stopped eating only what they could reach. They never chose the village life, but Homo sapiens did. And it's not like it happened only in Europe, or only in China, or only in North America. When Columbus ventured across the Atlantic, he didn't find primitive hunter-gatherers on the next continent. He found civilizations with their own laws, languages, religion, culture, and crops and farms. When Marco Polo traveled east, he didn't find the land on the other side of the Himalayas to be crawling with muddied hunter-gatherers. No, quite the opposite. 1 million years. And then boom, just 14,000 years ago, every corner of the globe starts growing a local crop and building homes made from stones and trees and keeping a fire to cook and to stay warm. Global coincidence? No. Something happened. And that is the missing link that I'm going to talk about in this video. It's been said that humans have tongues so we can talk. And we have opposable thumbs, so we can make and use tools. Well, gorillas and apes and other primates also have tongues, and they actually have a more advanced hand structure. And their feet also have thumbs, so we did not have an evolutionary edge just because of our tongues and our thumbs. That doesn't make sense. It's quite obvious that humans are vastly different from apes and gorillas, but what about the not so obvious? For example, gorillas and apes don't live even half as long as humans. Why is that? Also, they don't dance or create artwork. They don't worship or ponder or hold the unexplainable in reverence. And gorillas and apes and other primates don't plant crops or make plans for next year, and thus they don't spend their winters indoors, sitting by the fire, telling jokes and laughing out loud. Humans are very incredible creatures. So again, why would this be? And why did it start abruptly and globally just 14,000 years ago? It comes down to this. Here's the short story within this chapter. Someday, we humans will send spaceships out from our own solar system as we are forced to look for another planet like what Earth used to be like. There will be no folding of space for instantaneous arrival, though. We will not be traveling at the speed of light, no. To cross galaxies, we will be using the only forces available to us in space. We will be using solar power, solar sails, and mass attraction amplifiers. It will take weeks to get even to 1,000th the speed of light, and it will take weeks to stop too. You Star Trek fans and Star Wars fans are not going to like the idea of true intergalactic travel. The real Enterprise is not going to stop on a dime. Nor is the Millennium Falcon and the entire Imperial fleet going to jump instantaneously into lightspeed. I am profoundly open to tech that bends the limits of physics, but get real, no living creature will ever be able to travel at the speed of light. Simply, the crew that is first assigned to these desperate few ships that choose to leave our galaxy will become the long-dead grandparents of the crew that finally gets to gaze onto the intended original Earth-similar target. And guess what? That target may be blue and white and green on the Hubble telescope, but those green patches are acid clouds, and the blue patches are the resulting ammonia storms that slowly follow the green acid clouds around. Thus, after 70 years of space travel, Alteris 3 is found to be uninhabitable. So, you move on to Terapis 5, the next possibility. It takes another 30 years to get there, and you find that it's a water planet, yes, but it's seriously frozen. Too seriously frozen. So the science crew starts a new search, and there isn't anything within another 30 years. So you set to that course because, well, you have to. Then, as the 6th generation crew is gray, you finally reach Thetris 2, which is the size of Jupiter back home, but which actually has a moon that is the same size as Earth, and that moon has very similar features, including a tide and salty oceans that cover 2/3 of its surface. Hallelujah. The moon of Thetris 2 is covered with plants and fresh water and various life forms, but the scanners find that the atmosphere is overly pressurized and the natural pH and pure oxygen levels are life-threatening over the course of time. Only 10 minutes of exposure will be deadly. It will be a suits-only existence outside of the landing crafts and the domes that will need to be built, but otherwise perfectly acceptable to growing edible crops. You and the rest of the crew debate heavily, but then you vote to stay and to make this difficult place your home. It's by far the best that you've seen, and your ship was not designed to last 140 years. It's most likely to not make it to the next possible Earth-like target. So the nav team parks the ship in an orbit around the moon of Thetris 2, and the crew shuttles down to the surface and immediately sets to work building your new home. But the work is hard, and within a few years your suits are getting worn out, and it's decided that such hard work and wear and tear on the equipment is unsustainable. It's a workable planet, but your suits can't handle it. But still, there's a glimmer of hope, as it's suggested by several of the agriculturalists, that maybe the Indigenous can be taught to do the farming for us. This idea is treated as preposterous at first, as they aren't intelligent enough for the needed tasks, and they also don't live even half as long as is needed to train them. And they have no reason to watch and learn either. What would you do? What would you have to do? It's simple. We would genetically upgrade the Indigenous. To starve to death, to utterly fail on this remote planet, would not be an option. So, a plan is drawn up out of pure desperation. It's a 3-part plan. First, the Indigenous must be motivated to help. Dry homes, good food, and fear. Unfortunately, nothing motivates any living creature better than fear. And second, the Indigenous must be genetically upgraded and improved with certain preferred characteristics and genealogy. We've done this before with other creatures for agricultural purposes, and other purposes actually, so this is nothing new. And thirdly, we must get them to enjoy their life out of the rain and with food stores ready for their consumption. Once they've experienced a better lifestyle, hopefully, they won't go back to their previous mud-caked wanderings. To make a long story shorter, the plan works. Within just one generation, it becomes obvious that we are succeeding. The indigenous generations continue to spawn, and we find a new glimmer of intelligence in each newborn example. Our selective genetic implantation science is proving once again to be effective. Also, with cell modifications, they are now living 3 times longer than previously. They still don't live even a fifth as long as we do, but now it's worthwhile training them and teaching them. And don't get me started on how well our crops grow on this moon with just a little bit of continuous maintenance from our new helpers. Wow. Over the past several decades, the Indigenous have stepped forward to accept us in ways that we could not have imagined. And they have started thinking for themselves and started to improve their own spaces and are managing their own governing systems. They like being dry and warm and prepared for every season. They enjoy being able to relax in a planned and safe environment. These creatures are efficient and self-sustaining, and they know that their life now is better than just a couple generations back. But there are some amongst us whom now worry that we have interfered with the natural process of evolution. Too late, too bad, it has happened. So will we humans genetically improve an indigenous species if and when we have to? Of course we will. Heck, here on Earth, we already have. When faced with the utmost starvation and failure, I'm certain that we all know what we will do. Life finds a way to survive, to adapt. The theory of evolution does not discount outside influences. Quite the opposite. It often requires it. And our responses to starvation and failure are no different with us than with any other travelers in our solar system. I think you know what I mean. My next chapter is about global commonalities. Thank you for following along to the Ori-Genes of Mankind. Our eyes are now being opened to the logical story of what happened and why here on Earth only 13,000 years ago. Please enjoy my next chapter. Thank you.